it is no, not so conspicuous by any kind of achievement or anything like that. It is an ordinary life that I led. But my childhood was in the very same place here, and in those days, that is in the 50s and 60s, etc., life was much different from what it is today. Then the political, cultural situations, etc., were very different, and the kind of attitude to life also was very different from what it is today. So there were many struggles, during childhood because of the conditions in the country in general. It is not something that is peculiar to me. What people in general, they did not have that much of affluence, or livelihood was something of a struggle. Most of the families were like that, and the difference between those who have and those who do not have was not so wide, or the gap was not so conspicuous in those days. It was only a kind of society which depended more on agriculture, more on producing our own things. It was more or less a self-reliant kind of society. Even though there was poverty, even though there was starvation, even though there was lack of many things, there was some kind of contentment in the things that we had. Our needs were much less. It has not evolved into a kind of consumerist society at that time. It was from the 90s onwards that consumerism was peaking and reaching its climax, and after that life changed very much. And during my childhood, what I remember most is that those grandfathers. There were the granddad sitting in the portico of the very old house, and he was having discussions on so many things, especially literature, Sanskrit literature, etc., with other old men of his age. And as a child, I grew up listening to their stories, and they also tried to teach me shlokas and Sanskrit verses, the meaning of which I did not understand at all. It was something of a ritualistic nature. But when I reflect on those things today, my ability to memorize those things made me familiar with so many words, and it culminated in developing in me a love for words, a love for language, a love for literature, etc., which later I pursued as my career. I took up English literature for study for my degree as well as my postgraduate degree. And perhaps these early childhood influences might have been a reason. Then again, there were libraries around here, and we went there. While I was a primary school student, I went there and took novels by M.T., Tagari, Urub, and such prominent writers of Malayalam. And by reading those novels, I was coming into contact with a wider kind of world which was not familiar to me as a child. So I think these childhood experiences should have shaped something in me which made me what I am today. Then again, we watched plays which are being performed in the surroundings by several art clubs and Kala Samitis. Kala Samitis means clubs which indulge in activities related to art, especially presenting plays, etc., in an amateur way. But there were a large number of them in these areas, and we got opportunities to watch plays and read books from these reading rooms, etc. That was part of our daily culture. So all these should have nurtured in me a love for art also. Later I was interested in films. As you are a filmmaker, I will tell you about how I had, you know, come into contact with films in those. Actually, in the theaters, etc., there were only films, dealing with the stories from the epics, etc., in my childhood. They appear to be not so good. Not so good. I was not very much fascinated by the kind of stuff that is being dealt out in the name of entertainment, even in my childhood. I felt there is something wrong about it. Something that is less tasty. So I would better prefer the amateur plays, outside, rather than the films that I saw in my childhood. But later on, things changed. When I became a member in the Chitralekha Film Society in Trivandrum, that is in 1973. While I was at Trivandrum, I was working in the government secretariat at that time. And I became a member in the Chitralekha Film Society. It is from then onwards that my life or contact with the film underwent a very thorough change. There I came into contact with the world classics and all that. Even before that, there were a few films, and they are called social films, etc., which were somewhat good, rather than these mythologicals and historical, films which presented several heroes and heroines in their grandeur and all that. Okay, something like folk tales. That was the lot. But here I understood that cinema is a medium which could make you more not only familiar with the outside world, but also with possibilities of a realistic kind of art that can give you a potential for understanding life in a better way. Just like reading Dostoevsky's novels or Tolstoy's novels and all that. No, apart from literature, cinema was also a serious medium that we have to take care of. So I started viewing all the good films that were shown by the Film Society. And then the Film Society movement caught up in the state. And as soon as I came back home, what I did here was to establish a Film Society at Payanur. By inviting certain friends, etc., and discussing with them the need for a film society, etc., I was able to convince them that that is something good. And after that, it continued. This actually my life in film society has completed 50 years, almost. Since then, I have been watching all these films, going for film festivals and all that, and screening all these films, preparing the synopsis for all these, getting them printed, distributing them, and carrying films to interior areas and showing it to the general public. Then there was no subtitle or anything like that. Therefore, sometimes we will hold a mic in my hand and translate them instantly for the audience who did not understand all those things. No, I think that was, and again in the educational institutions nearby, we had screenings, talks, discussions about the film appreciation courses, and such other things. This is through this gradual process of coming into grips with the great films being made all over the world, that I became that much immersed in cinema. Those who went for higher education was far much less than what it is today. Only very few people went for higher studies, and the opportunity or the institutions for higher studies were not at all available for most of the people. For example, in Payyanur there was no college then. I went to Kasaragod and studied there because my uncle was also there. I was staying with him and going to the college. And many people around me tried to discourage, this kind of a thing. Why are you going to a college, etc.? Go for some teachers training institute and be a teacher. Try to earn your livelihood as early as possible, as that is necessary. But I persisted in having higher education. I went to Kasaragod Government College and studied English language and literature, had my degree completed. And then for my postgraduate course, I went to Trivandrum. I chose Trivandrum because Trivandrum is full of libraries. I was quite sure that I will not be able to buy all the books prescribed by the university, because it will be a very expensive thing for me to afford them. So the best town with libraries was Trivandrum, and therefore I went there and had my study there. And fortunately for me, there were great stalwarts like the poet Ayyappa Panikkar as my teachers. That was also something fortunate. And I developed this kind of interest in literature, and I started writing both in Malayalam and English, and publishing things in journals, magazines, etc. Right from the period of my studenthood. So that I continued. My passions were for literature, music, and later from 70s onwards in cinema. Then when my reading and such other activities, public activities progressed, I found that environment was the most important thing that needed attention of the major part of what you call people interested in ushering in a better world. And we were always concerned with bringing in a better world, a socialist kind of society where there will be justice, where there will be equality, where there will be democracy, etc., etc. The ideals of the French Revolution and the Russian Revolution inspired most of the youth in those periods. And then came the question of the mindless destruction of environment that was going on around all over the world. And there were movements in different parts of the world against the nuclear energy and all those things. And there was much discussion going on possible renewable sources of energy which can replace nuclear power and all that, and against coal power stations and their pollution, etc. And in the meanwhile, the Silent Valley movement in Kerala also started. Immediately we got involved in all these things, all kinds of environmental movements that were taking place here. That's how we first met at Kudangulam.
Yes.
That you remember.
Mm.
That was because we were so much involved in the anti-nuclear struggle there. Here a nuclear plant was proposed near Peringom here, and we had a very good fight against it even before it was started. That's why that was avoided. So in all the struggles for protection of the environment, struggle against anti-people, anti-human projects like the Narmada Andolan, everywhere where there is a struggle against a nuclear plant, a thermal power station, this, that, pollution, etc. I took personal interest and went and involved as much as I could in those days itself. The things that we could do was only very insignificant when compared to we were actually struggling against the might of big corporations, transnationals, etc. But even then, in the struggle against Coca-Cola, in the struggle against all these things, the Enron, etc., we had a kind of success in the sense that we could finally make them abandon such mega projects. I'm quite confident of the fact that if people can exert their pressure on the authorities, as long as these people need votes, they cannot suppress people's struggles beyond a particular limit. In spite of their being very authoritative, very what you call dictatorial and all that, they cannot go beyond a particular limit. For example, even though you try to deny climate change, you cannot make people convinced that climate change is not a thing that exists. The climate change has become so clear for everyone to see, especially from the 2018 floods in Kerala. So people know that there is something like climate catastrophe that is going to come. And all kinds of projects are ignoring all these realities, and they have a kind of mad pursuit of so-called development. This developmentalism has landed us in hot waters. Every resource of nature is being destroyed mindlessly, without even considering the fact that the existence of all these things are a basic prerequisite for our very existence. And people don't realize it, the importance of it. People speak of cash, earning money, affluence and all that. And they do not realize what money cannot bring. Can you say, in spite of all the money, the people in Ernakulam district during the 2018 floods needed boats and helicopters to lift them from their first floor. It's a UN decision that countries should discontinue this kind of capital punishment, which is a very kind of unjust practice. Nobody has the right to take away the life of another person for any reason. And this capital punishment, in spite of all the claimed benefits it gives only injustice. You cannot punish somebody into making a good person. And for that you need reform, not punishment. And this is a kind of irreversible punishment. Now, most often, many innocent people have been subjected to this kind of ignominious killing. The killing by the rulers is a kind of crime which denies humanity. It is violation of human rights at its maximum. So we have been involved in campaign against capital punishment, and we have conducted several meetings in different parts of Kerala, and so many people have joined us. And it is a pity that in India, in spite of having a very good legal establishment and all that, we have not been so far successful in abolishing this kind of a barbarous crime of capital punishment. It is a crime, it is not punishment. Teaching is a very interesting thing, especially when what we have to teach is literature, cinema, etc. That is what we share, our own experiences, our own understandings, our own insights, what we felt, etc. to our students also. Therefore, that was a very rewarding sort of experience till recently. But recently, literature, humanities, etc. have been neglected in most of the academic circles. Commerce, science, etc. have taken the place of all these things. It is as though we are having education just for the sake of livelihood or earning money. And all the other human values associated with the literature, human history and such other humanity what you call subjects under humanities, they have been given the go by. And what happens is that people are not recently very serious about literature, poetry, such other things. All these are needless when you look at them from the point of view of making money. Living in a consumer society, amassing or possessing all kinds of consumer goods, and these are considered to be the hallmarks of success. These are the symptoms of your being a successful person. Therefore, the entire attitude to life itself has changed, as I pointed out earlier to you, because of the values promoted by capitalism has gained so much of importance. It has taken roots even in a society which had dreams of socialism. I loved it. It is a thing which enters into the minds of so many people. If there are 30 students in the class, it may be 4 or 5 who will have the sensibility to go deep into the kind of or the literary aspects of each and every novel, poem, etc., etc. But even then, that experience is something rewarding in the sense that we are actually in our natural elements there. We have been brought in a kind of environment in which literature, music, etc. counted. These were not additional fittings or extra burdens imposed on us, but something we voluntarily, willingly went for. The family is there always, therefore I am able to move about, travel to different places, etc. The family, it was my mother who was always here as a presence, but she died last month. Then there is my wife, my 3 children. All these children, I have not been a kind of dominant father in the sense that I had my own familiarity with the evils of patriarchy, etc. from my reading, and therefore I try to avoid the kind of interventions that a typical patriarch does towards the family. So I was careful about that, and I think my children are happy with me. They also were left to choose for themselves what they have to study. I never imposed any kind of choices on them that you should study this, you should go for that, you should learn a particular course, you should go for engineering, medicine, etc. Which the usual
parents do.
Middle class family compel their children to do. I never did that, and my daughter went for literature. My son also, he was also interested in literature, film, etc., and he chose his own way. My younger daughter chose music as a main subject and studied in the Chambai Music College, Palghat. So they were all doing it out of their own choice. The choice was not, perhaps I should have guided some kind of love that I had for music and literature should have had its influence on those children also. But I never personally intervened or compelled them to choose any particular course or anything like that. It is not based on courses that we are going to build our lives. Life is so complex a thing that you cannot reduce it into formulas of success by careers and courses. So it is much more. You need happiness, you need some kind of peace of mind. All these are more important than money most of the time. This is my, I was against this kind of consumerist culture, etc. For example, I read Eric Fromm's seminal work, To Have or To Be. That work was a very great influence on me. And that, in a way, discouraged me from having this kind of consumerist attitude to things. Right from its beginning in 2005, a few of our friends together, we wanted to create opportunities for watching even the newest films coming in the festivals, etc. What is going on in the world in the field of cinema. All these will have to be familiarized to our youngsters, students also, and therefore we started a film search along with friends like Ramachandran, Devendran, etc. And they were all very enthusiastic about going along with it. And I did what I could. And then again, we started giving Malayalam subtitles to films. The difficulty of reading subtitles very fast in English, that was to be overcome. And again, even for those people who did not or could not read English subtitles, the films should be communicating. And so in order to make this communication possible, we thought the best way would be to translate the subtitles into our language and give them an idea. So in all our classical film festivals, in the sense that so many world classics were shown, and special subtitles were made by dividing the work between some of our friends. All of them voluntarily undertook to translate subtitles, etc. And we were also trying to make it very good qualitatively. The kind of translation that was coming out should not be very dull and monotonous or anything like that. It should be actually a kind of transcreation, so to speak, without interfering into the freedom of the authors. We should make it as communicative and interesting as possible. That is the venture that we made, as a pioneering venture by a film society, and we made several outstanding subtitles for classics. And one of them, The Reason, that is a film by Anand Vattuvarsan about contemporary realities, that was translated into English, and that film was shown with these subtitles all over Kerala. Actually, the Federation of Film Societies took interest in it. They asked us whether you could translate all these things. Oh yes, we can, we said. And we prepared Malayalam subtitles for the film The Reason, and that was shown all over the state. This is possible, and the potentiality of having our own language subtitles, that is very good. The other states also can try that, because SRT is available. You can play it along with the film and get the translation done while watching the film and reading the subtitles. Now I will read a poem by Sri E.V. Ramakrishnan, who is a great scholar, academic, and writer both in English and Malayalam. And he has written and published several English poems. And this is from the collection Tips for Living in an Expanding Universe. I'll read the poem. Never build houses. Never build houses. They will become bunkers. You will lie there in wait for your friends' fingers on the trigger. Never buy books. They will turn yellow with age, become wiser than you. Misguided, you will renounce the world. Never shout slogans. They will scald your larynx and infect your lungs' inner linings. You will gasp for each word you speak later. Never read the sacred texts. They are thick with sorrows of those killed in their names. Be an illiterate to know the sacred. Never build memorials. Encrusted with patina, the words on the plaques will hang like foul air. Leave no trace of who you are and what you thought. Just show you the person. There are a few translations of his poems which published in this magazine this week. It was he who published it. I just translated it one and sent it to him earlier, and he just put it in the magazine. These are there. Actually, it's a kind of bad habit, but at the same time, it is a kind of diversionary thing. Some kind of I don't know whether it gives a relaxation or not. Scientifically, may not be, but it gives some kind of a break for some activity that is going on. It may be thinking something. It may be reading and doing some work. We will have a walk around and have a smoke. Therefore, we will get a bit more stimulated to do the next work. That's it. But I don't justify smoking. It is, I will tell you one thing, it is not that monster it is made out to be. That's a kind of media creation. Nor is it any kind of blessing. It can cause, definitely it can cause adverse effects on your body. But the same can be said of sugar, salt, etc. But nobody is speaking about sugar or
rice,
salt or rice or maida, the white poisons.
Parota.
Yeah.
Kerala parota.
Every parota made of maida, which is white flour. So they are called 5 white poisons. The raw rice, maida, sugar, salt, and milk. But our medical literature will not agree to this kind of a generalized statement. You should have very convincing proofs for everything. ചായ ഉണ്ടാക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. You know how to read Malayalam?
No, I'm an illiterate man.
കുട്ടമത്തല്ല, ചെറുപ്പൂര് ഇപ്പോഴത്തെ മക്കളായി സഖാവേ ഒന്ന് വാ. ഇപ്പൊ തന്നെ നല്ല സൈക്കിൾ കൊടുത്ത് പോവാം.
ആ റോഡിന്റെ സൈഡിൽ തന്നെ ഉള്ളതല്ലേ നമ്മുടെ ഒരു വീട്ടിൽ കാണാൻ പോയി
നാടകം
ആ റോഡ് സൈഡിൽ തന്നെയുള്ള ആ ഒരു ഇതല്ലേ
ആലപ്പുറത്തുണ്ട്
ഞാൻ മനോജ് ചേട്ടൻ്റെ കൂടെ അഭിനയിച്ച അത് ഞാൻ അവിടെ കണ്ടിരുന്നു.
അവിടെ വേറെ കളിച്ചിരുന്നോ? കളിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ടോ? ഡിസപ്പിയർന്ന് എഴുതി പഠിക്കാൻ പറഞ്ഞിട്ട് എഴുതി പഠിക്കാൻ സൂവല്ല മ്യൂസിയം. എപ്പോ നോക്കിയാലും റൊണാൾഡോ ഒരു സൂ ഉണ്ട്.
മഴ അല്ല, മഴ വന്നാലെല്ലാം എനിക്ക് ലീവ് തരുവാ. അനാവശ്യമായിട്ട് ഹെവി റെയിൻ വന്നാൽ അങ്ങനെയുണ്ട്. അത് മഴ തരില്ലേ, ലീവ് തരുന്ന സ്കൂൾ വിരുദ്ധനാണ്. പാട്ട് നിന്റെ പിന്നെ നിന്റെ ഇല്ലുമിനാട്ടി. He will sing, he will dance, huh? And he has so many kind of the Tamil actor Vijay, he has a fan here. He is a fan of Vijay.
Used to tell Vijay.
Vijay, ഇതാ വിജയിന്റെ അടുത്താളാണ്, അറിയാം. വിജയ് അടുത്താളാണ്, അതിന്റെ അടുത്താണ്. ചെന്നൈയിലും മധുരയിലാണ് പിന്നെ മാമൻ. നമുക്ക് മറ്റേ
ഗ്രൂപ്പ് അല്ലേ
ഗോപികൃഷ്ണന്റെ ഒരു ടോക്ക് ഇങ്ങനെ ഈ ഫാസ്റ്റ് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ
നേരത്തെ ബുക്കാണ്
25 ഞായറാഴ്ച ഞാൻ പോകുന്നത് പകലാണ്. ഇത് സഞ്ജീവ് വിളിക്കണം. ഞാൻ അന്ന് 25 ഗോവയിൽ പോകുന്നു ഇപ്പം പറഞ്ഞില്ലേ.
25 നീ പോകും.
ഞാൻ വൈകുന്നേരം ഞാൻ ടിക്കറ്റ് എടുക്കുന്നത്. 6-ാം തീയതി ഞാൻ
ഈ പറഞ്ഞ ഡേറ്റ് എത്രടാ? 25 അല്ലേ? 4 മണി തന്നെ.
അത് എറണാകുളം ഡേറ്റ് ആണ്. എറണാകുളം നടക്കില്ല. ഇന്റർസിറ്റി.
ഹലോ, സജീവ സുബ്രഹ്മണ്യ മാഷാണേ. പിന്നെ ആഗസ്റ്റ് 5-ന് ഒന്നാം കൈരളിയിലെ അല്ല ആഗസ്റ്റ് 25-ന് 25 പരിപാടി ആ PN ഗോപികൃഷ്ണൻ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞ ഒരാളുടെ ആ ഹിന്ദുത്വ ഇതിന്റെ കഥ എന്നുള്ള ആ പുസ്തകത്തിനെ കുറിച്ചിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു ചർച്ചയാണ്. മാതൃഭൂമിയല്ല, അയാള് പിന്നെ കവിയും ഇതെല്ലായിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു കക്ഷിയാണ്. ആഗസ്റ്റ് 25-ന് ഞായറാഴ്ച ഉച്ചക്ക് ഒരു പിന്നെ അല്ല ഉച്ചക്ക് ശേഷമാണ് 2 മണി മുതൽ ഒരു 6 മണി വരെ എന്നുള്ള നിലയിൽ. ഞാൻ ഇതാ
ഗോപി വരെ കുറച്ച് മഴ വരും. ബോർഡറിൽ
ഗാന്ധി പാർക്കിൽ വെച്ച മഴ പെയ്യുന്നതിൽ
മഴ പെയ്ത എത്ര ദിവസം
അതല്ല ബോർഡല്ല പരിപാടി
ഗാന്ധി പാർക്കിലൊക്കെ ഓഗസ്റ്റ് മാസം, കേരളത്തിലെ ഓഗസ്റ്റ് മാസത്തിനെ വിശ്വസിക്കാൻ
ഇരിക്കാനല്ല.
അതല്ല ഇങ്ങോട്ടാ പോകുന്നത്, ഇങ്ങോട്ടാ വരുന്നത്.
ആഗസ്റ്റ് വരെ നിൽക്കൂലാണ്. അതൊക്കെ ഈ ആഴ്ച എന്നൊക്കെ പറയുന്ന മാതിരി ഉണ്ടാവുമല്ലോ. അതല്ലേ
അല്ല ഇപ്പൊ രൂപം കൊണ്ട ന്യൂനമർദ്ദം എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാല് ഒരു 4-5 ദിവസമല്ലേ അത്.
ഒന്നും പറയാൻ പറ്റാത്ത അൺപ്രഡിക്റ്റബിൾ വെതറാണ്.
അല്ല എനിക്ക് തോന്നുന്നത് വെതർ പ്രഡിക്ഷൻ ഇപ്പാണ് ഏറ്റവും കൂടുതൽ ഇതായിട്ടുള്ളത്. എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ ഇപ്പൊ ഒരു 50 കൊല്ലം മുമ്പേ അല്ല ഒരു ആന്ധ്രാതീരത്തൊരു കൊടുങ്കാറ്റടിച്ചാല് 10,000 ആളുകൾ മരിക്കുന്നില്ലേ. ഇന്നിപ്പോ കടൽ തീരത്ത് അങ്ങനെ പ്രളയം വന്നിട്ട് ആളുകൾ മരിക്കുന്നത് വളരെ വളരെ കുറഞ്ഞില്ലേ. ഇപ്പൊ ഒറീസ, ആന്ധ്ര അതുപോലെയുള്ള സ്ഥലത്ത്
അല്ല അത് മാത്രമല്ല, അല്ല അവിടെയെല്ലാം വേറെ എന്തെല്ലാം ന്യൂനത ഉണ്ടെങ്കിലും ഒരു ഡിസാസ്റ്റർ മാനേജ്മെന്റ് പ്ലാൻ റൺ ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ട്. അതിനൊരു പ്രോട്ടോകോൾ ഉണ്ട്. അത് നടത്തേണ്ടത് എന്നാന്ന് എല്ലാവർക്കും അറിയാം. മുഖ്യമന്ത്രിമാരും താഴോട്ട്
അതെല്ലാം വെച്ചാ കൊണ്ടും കൊടുത്തും പഠിച്ചല്ലേ.
എക്സ്പീരിയൻസ് തീർച്ചയായിട്ടും.
ആന്ധ്രയില് ഒരു കാലത്തില് പിന്നെ വെള്ളം ഭയങ്കര 10,000
GR സന്തോഷ് കുമാറിന്റെ കാർട്ടൂൺ കണ്ടിട്ടുണ്ട്. നല്ല രസമുള്ള കാർട്ടൂണല്ലേ. ഞങ്ങളെ പാഠപുസ്തക സമിതി ആലോചനകൾ പഴയ ഉണ്ട്. അന്ന് വൈകുന്നേരങ്ങളിലാണ് നമ്മൾ അന്ന് ഇയാൾ ഡോക്ടറാണ്, മെഡിക്കൽ ഗവൺമെന്റ് സർവീസ് ഡോക്ടറാണ് തിരുവനന്തപുരത്ത്. അപ്പൊ അന്നേരമാണ് ഇയാളെ നമ്മൾ കാണുന്നതും പരിചയപ്പെടുന്നതും. ദിനേശന്റെ സുഹൃത്തായിരുന്നു. വന്നിട്ട് നല്ല ബംഗാളി പാട്ടുകൾ പാടും ഇഷ്ടം പോലെ. നമ്മുടെ
അല്ലെങ്കിൽ തന്നെ ഈ സാഹിത്യ അക്കാദമി, സംഗീത നാടക അക്കാദമി അതിനെല്ലാം ശരിക്കും വൈബ്രന്റ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു സാധനമാക്കി മാറ്റിക്കൂടെ? അതിങ്ങനെ ഒരു ബ്യൂറോക്രാറ്റിക് ശൈലിയിൽ ഫംഗ്ഷൻ ചെയ്യുന്ന ഒരു ഉദ്യോഗസ്ഥന്മാരുടെ ഇഷ്ടത്തിനനുസരിച്ചിട്ട് പോകുന്ന ഒരു സാധനമായിട്ട് മാറും.
കോൺഗ്രസിന്റെ ഏതെങ്കിലും നേതാക്കന്മാരോ കേരളത്തിലെ പൊതുവിദ്യാഭ്യാസം വളരെ മോശമെന്ന് പറഞ്ഞായിട്ട് നീ കേട്ടുന്നത് ഇല്ലല്ലോ. സാംസ്കാരിക മന്ത്രിയല്ലേ പറയുന്നത് കേരളത്തിലെ ആളുകൾക്ക് എഴുതാൻ വായിക്കാൻ അറിയില്ലെന്ന്. വിദ്യാഭ്യാസ മന്ത്രി നിയമസഭയല്ലേ പറയുന്നത് മാർക്ക് വെറുതെ കൊടുക്കുകയാണെന്ന്. ഷാനവാസ് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞ IAS കാരനല്ലേ DPI, അയാളല്ലേ പറഞ്ഞ ആൾക്ക്. അതിന് മുമ്പ് ജീവൻ ബാബു അല്ലേ പറയുന്നത്.
ഇപ്പോ ഫ്യൂഡൽ കാലഘട്ടത്തിലുള്ള ബന്ധങ്ങളും അതിന്റെ കുടുംബഘടനയും അതിന്റെ ഇതും ഈ കേരളത്തിലെ ആദ്യ തലമുറ വായനക്കാരുണ്ടാവുന്ന ഒരു സാഹിത്യം എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ആധുനികതയും ഈ ഇതും കൂടിക്കലർന്ന ഒരു സമയത്താണ്. അന്ന് അക്ഷരം പഠിക്കുന്ന ആവേശമുള്ള ഒരു കാലഘട്ടമാണ്. എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ ആദ്യമായിട്ടാണ് മനുഷ്യർ വായിക്കാൻ പഠിക്കുന്നത്. അതിനനുസരിച്ചിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു സാഹിത്യം വരുന്നു, അവരുടെ ജീവിത പരിസരത്തു നിന്നുള്ള അനുഭവങ്ങൾ സാഹിത്യത്തിൽ വരുന്നു, അത് വായിക്കും. ഇന്ന് ആ കുട്ടി, ഇന്നത്തെ ഒരു തലമുറ അത് വായിക്കുമ്പോൾ ഓന് എന്തെങ്കിലും തരത്തിലുള്ള ആസ്വാദനം കിട്ടില്ല.
അത് വായിക്കുമ്പോൾ വേണ്ട. ഞാൻ പറയുന്നത് നമ്മുടെ ക്ലാസിക്കുകൾ, ഉദാഹരണത്തിന് ഉറൂവിന്റെ സുന്ദരികളും സുന്ദരന്മാരും വായിക്കാത്ത ഒരാള് മലയാള സാഹിത്യം പഠിച്ചു എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ അത് ഈ പറയുന്ന തലമുറക്ക് ഉറൂവിനെയോ ഒവി വിജയനോ വായിച്ചാൽ കമ്മ്യൂണിക്കേറ്റ് ചെയ്യുന്ന ഒരു തലവുമില്ല. അത് ആ സാഹിത്യം ഔട്ട്ഡേറ്റ് ആയതുകൊണ്ടല്ല, മറിച്ച് ഇവരുടെ അഭിരുചികൾ രൂപപ്പെട്ടത് ഇലക്ട്രോണിക് മീഡിയയിൽ നിന്നുള്ളതുകൊണ്ടാണ്. ഇവര് അടുക്കളയിൽ ഉപയോഗിക്കുന്ന സംസാര ഭാഷക്കപ്പുറം സാഹിത്യത്തിന്റെ ലാംഗ്വേജ് പോകുന്നില്ല.
അതും ഒരു ഘടകമായിട്ടാണ് എനിക്ക് തോന്നുന്നത്. അതേസമയം ഇപ്പോൾ പിള്ളേരെ കൊണ്ട് പുസ്തകം വായിപ്പിക്കാൻ പണ്ടത്തെക്കാളും ശ്രമം നടത്തിയിട്ടുണ്ട്. പക്ഷെ അത് എന്തോ തരത്തിൽ അത് വർക്ക് ചെയ്യുന്നില്ല എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞപ്പോ നമ്മളെല്ലാം പഠിക്കുന്ന കാലത്ത് ലൈബ്രറി വായിച്ചതിനേക്കാളും ചിലപ്പോ പിള്ളേര് പുസ്തകം കൊടുക്കാൻ
ഓൺലൈനിൽ വായിക്കുന്നുണ്ട്.
വേറെ വലിയൊരു വിഷയം എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞത് ഇപ്പൊ ട്രെൻഡ് സെറ്റിംഗ് ആണ് ബേസിക്കലി. ഈ ട്രെൻഡ് സെറ്റിംഗിൽ നമ്മൾ വന്നാൽ പിന്നെ അത് ട്രെൻഡിൽ അങ്ങ് എത്രയാന്ന് പോകുന്നു പറയാനില്ല. കാരണം ഇത് ലക്ഷങ്ങളാണല്ലോ ഇത് വായിക്കുന്നത്. സോഷ്യൽ മീഡിയയിൽ ഒരു നോവൽ നല്ലതാണെന്ന് 10-15 ആളുകൾ അഭിപ്രായം വന്ന് വായിച്ച് പുതിയ ആളുകൾക്ക് വന്നു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ഒരു ഓളത്തിൽ വന്നു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ആ ഓളത്തിൽ അത് എത്ര ഉയരത്തിലെത്തും. അതിന് വാല്യൂ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ലിറ്റററി വാല്യൂ ആയാലും മറ്റൊന്നും വിഷയമല്ല.
രാജശ്രീയുടെ നോവൽ ഒരുപാട്
ഞാൻ 1-2 പിള്ളേരോട് വെച്ചാൽ കാർട്ടൂൺ വെച്ചു.
ഓഡിയോ നോവലിൽ ഇപ്പൊ DC-യിലെ ഓഡിബിൾ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞ സാധനം ഭയങ്കര ഹിറ്റാണ്. DC ഇറക്കി നല്ല ഡ്രൈവ് ചെയ്യുമ്പോ മൊബൈൽ ഡൗൺലോഡ് ചെയ്ത് വെച്ചാൽ വിമാനത്തിൽ പോകുന്ന സമയത്ത് അങ്ങനെയൊക്കെ ആളുകൾ കേൾക്കുന്നുണ്ട് നോവൽ. ഇത്രയും കണ്ടന്റുകളുണ്ട്, കോണ്ടന്റുകൾ അത്രമാത്രം ഉണ്ട്. വായിച്ചാൽ മാത്രമല്ല ഈ വിഷ്വൽ സാധനം തന്നെ ഉണ്ട് അത്രയധികം. ഇപ്പൊ ജലജയുടെ അമ്മ എന്റെ വീട്ടിലുണ്ട്. അപ്പൊ അവര് പിള്ളേരിൽ ഫുള്ള് ചീത്ത പറയാണ്, ഈ മൊബൈൽ നോക്കുന്നു. പിള്ളേർ എന്താ ചെയ്യുന്ന വെച്ചാൽ അവർക്കൊരു സ്മാർട്ട് ഫോൺ മേടിച്ചു കൊടുത്തു. അവിടെ വൈഫൈ കണക്ഷൻ ഉണ്ടല്ലോ വീട്ടില്. പിന്നെ
എല്ലാം
ഇവർക്ക് വേണ്ട ആളുകളെല്ലാം ഉണ്ടാക്കിയിട്ട് അതെല്ലാം ഈ ഇവര് തന്നെ വലിയ മേള നടത്തിയിട്ട് അതിൽ നല്ല അപ്പൊ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാല് പുസ്തകത്തിന്റെ എണ്ണം കൂട്ടുക, അതൊന്നും ആ പുസ്തകം ആരും വായിക്കില്ല. അപ്പൊ ഇത് പക്ഷെ ഇത് ഉപയോഗിക്കാനുള്ള ഒരു പ്ലാനിങ്ങോ ഒരു ദീർഘകാല പദ്ധതിയോ അങ്ങനെയുള്ള
ഇപ്പം ഈ LIC എന്നെല്ലാം കേന്ദ്ര ഇതേപോലെ ബാങ്കിൽ
അത് ഈ ട്രഷറിയിലുള്ള പാർട്ടിക്ക് പോലും അങ്ങനെ
VM ജനാർദ്ദന്റെ പെരുമല എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞൊരു പുസ്തകം ഞാൻ വായിച്ചിട്ടില്ല.
അതിപ്പോ ഭയങ്കരമായിട്ട് ഇങ്ങനെ ആഘോഷിക്കുന്നുണ്ട്.
ഇയാള് ഈ അസ്തമയ പക്ഷികളിൽ ഇപ്പൊ ഒരു പപ്പാട്ടല്ലേ താല്പര്യത്തില് അസ്തമയ പക്ഷികൾ വീണ്ടും പ്രവാഹത്തിലേക്ക് സംഘടിപ്പിക്കുന്നത് അത് പറഞ്ഞു കഴിയുമ്പോഴൊക്കെ തന്നെ ഞാൻ അസ്തമയ പക്ഷികൾ അവർക്ക് നോവല് അവതരിപ്പിക്കാൻ വേണ്ടി ആളുകളാണ്.